Rand Paul went into detail about the drug war and criminal justice reform and race at the Fox debate. Let's watch.
I'm Mark Watson. I'm known for my tech reviews on YouTube, but I'm also a veteran who served in the Army for 8 years. As an African-American living near Ferguson, I've seen the strain between police officers and the communities they serve firsthand. Now, there are great tools like body cameras that can protect both officers and citizens, but we all currently have better cameras in our pockets than in our precincts. Why aren't we using the technology available to better protect our communities?
Senator Paul, that question to you.
You know, I've supported legislation to allow body cameras. I've been to Ferguson. I've been trying to look for solutions to our criminal justice problem. One thing I discovered in Ferguson was that a third of the budget for the city of Ferguson was being reaped by civil fines. People were just being fined to death. Now, you and I and many of the people in this audience, if we get a $100 fine, we can survive it. If you're living on the edge of poverty, you get a $100 fine or your car towed, a lot of times you lose your job. I also think the war on drugs has disproportionately affected our African-American community, and what we need to do is make sure that the war on drugs is equal protection under the law and that we don't unfairly incarcerate another generation of young African-American males. In Ferguson, for every 100 African-American women, there are only 60 African-American men. Drug use is about equal between white and black, but our prisons, 3 out of 4 people in prison are black or brown. I think something has to change. I think it's a big thing that our party needs to be part of, and I've been a leader in Congress on trying to bring about criminal justice reform.
Senator Paul, thank you.
Okay, that's bold to do at a Republican debate, where you dive headfirst into the issue of racial disparities when it comes to how the laws are applied. White people and black people do use drugs at about the same rate, and black people are arrested 4 times more often for using drugs. It also works the same with selling drugs, too. White people sell drugs actually much more than blacks do, and blacks get arrested for selling drugs more than whites do. And you can go down the list of the disparities here that can really only be explained not through a class lens, but through a race lens. Now, obviously, class is an issue as well, and one that we need to address in a significant way. But to deny the problem of disparate treatment and disparate usage of the laws or application of the laws, well, you would just be ignoring something that is clear and demonstrated by the facts and the various studies on this. So for him to say this with a Republican base crowd in Iowa, that doesn't usually go over well with the audience. Now, you heard cheers there, but actually I probably should have let it go a little longer so you got more context, because during the debate, for everything Rand said, it was obvious that he kind of, I don't know if he brought in his own staffers or they paid people that were his supporters to show up and cheer for him for everything. What you found is that his applause was not really organic. Now, again, I agree with him more than anybody else on stage, so I'm not biased against him. If anything, I'm biased in favor of him. But the reality is what it is. It's obvious that at previous debates, when he got a lack of applause for saying certain things that made sense, they realized, look, this looks bad for people watching the debate at home, so let's bring in some of our own people to cheer every time you say something that makes sense. Whereas everybody else, the applause wasn't really specific to a particular area of the room or the auditorium or whatever. With him it was, so it's obvious that they brought people in. But either way, he's right, and it makes sense, and he's bringing up the strategy that they had in Ferguson and that they have at other places around the U.S. of fining people for everything as a tactic to continue to fund the local government and the police department. They go into it knowing, okay, we need to generate X amount of revenue through, or just X amount of money, raise X amount of money through finding the people who live here, and just come up with excuses and bullshit reasons, and you find the shit out of them, and you let the white people, quite literally, don't find them, don't go into their neighborhoods, don't look for them doing anything wrong, don't, try to go in there with the whole purpose being, let's raise money. But for the black communities, that was the idea. And this isn't me talking. This is the in-depth Ferguson report that came out. And this is exactly what Rand Paul is referring to. And on the issue of body cameras, that's a no-brainer, man. It's a no-brainer. I mean, and people say, oh, they're violating the rights of the cops. Whoa, 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 whoa. You don't have a right to be a police officer. You are hired by the government, and you are the government, and it's supposed to be that you're hired by us, the citizens. It's to protect and serve us. So we're your boss, bitch. So, if you want to do stuff in our name with our money, which is quite literally what you're doing, well, then you have to abide by the rules that we lay out for you. And body cameras are not only good for potential cases of police abuse, but it also protects the police officers. If there's a good cop and somebody attacks you and does something wrong against you, wouldn't you want that recorded so that when it goes to trial, you can say, look, I did nothing wrong here. It was somebody attacking me. So it's wins across the board. An overwhelming majority of the American people are in favor of it. In the places where they have implemented it, though it's not foolproof and there's still things that get by, like Eric Garner, even though that wasn't a body camera, it makes it so that cops are less likely to do fucked up stuff up front because they know they're being recorded. Wild, I know. But that's also a no-brainer. So Rand is right to address that, to address the drug war, and to say, look, this is the future of the Republican Party, because it is. Whatever you say about the Republican base today, and I have a lot to say about that, if you haven't noticed, the younger Republicans are much more libertarian-leaning. That's undeniable. Look at the polls. A majority are now in favor of gay marriage. A majority are now in favor of legalizing marijuana. So the future is not with the Chuck Grassley types or the Rick Santorum types. The future is with, the Rand Paul type of character. Now, he might not be doing well right now, but after this debate, which was his best debate performance yet and his most honest about his libertarian beliefs, what happened? At least according to the Time poll, he came in number 2 in the debate. Behind Donald Trump, by the way, who wasn't there, which says a lot. So there's even an argument that perhaps he won the debate. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened if he was himself from day one in this campaign. He came out trying to not be like his dad, trying to not be a pure libertarian, if you will. And as a result of that, I think it hurt his campaign. And now I think it's too little too late to try to climb that mountain. Maybe, look, I'm not saying he would have won if he was purely libertarian from day one, but would he have done much, much better? Absolutely. Why? Because that ideology makes a lot more sense than the other idiots on stage. And though the older Republican base right now might not agree with you, make the fucking argument and see if you could change some minds. Perhaps you can.